Matthew here from MiniWargaming.com. Today is Friday, January 24th, and this is another Sit and Talk. Now, for those of you who are new to this show, this is a show where I basically print off everybody's comments from last Sit and Talk, and I respond to them. So you can ask me whatever questions you want about pretty much anything. I do have to warn you, occasionally the topic of religion does come up. So if you are easily offended by any mention of religion whatsoever, I kindly ask you not to watch this video series because it'll just offend you. Or maybe it will, I'm not quite sure. And anything's up. Most of the time we talk about wargaming, maybe some business, occasionally some politics, and occasionally some religion too. I also mentioned that if you really do want to have more in-depth religious discussions with me, you can of course send me an email. And a lot of people have been taking me up on that, and it's great. It's taken me some time to reply, so if you emailed me in the past week, then understand that I'm going to be getting back to you. It's just that it takes, I gotta like find the good 10-15 minutes to be able to sit down and really answer all those questions. And I want to do it well. So, you can always email me, Matthew@miniwargaming.com, or you can post a question in the comments below. And if you want your questions answered on the next Sit and Talk, make sure you don't post a comment on the YouTube comments, but you actually post it on MiniWargaming.com. And the way that you do that, if you're on YouTube, is you click on the link in the video description, which will take you to our site, and you need to have a free account so you can post a comment. The reason I do that is because it's really easy to print them off. This week, I've got 10 pages of comments and questions. So I hope that I can get through them all because I only have actually about an hour today because my schedule is quite full. And so I want to get through as many of these as I can, hopefully all 10 pages. 10 pages is a lot, unless like somebody's posted like a full page of this huge block of text. Also, I realize now that I printed it in slightly larger font than I normally do, so maybe that's why there's more pages. But we'll see. Captain Obvious says, Matt, I agree with you on random psychic powers. You can get, say, the Eldar, some of the greatest psychers in the galaxy, and they know all these amazing powers, but even after all that, they have to choose at random? No! If you're that good of a psyker, you can choose what power. Say for fluff-wise, what kind of psyker would just guess as using a power? It doesn't work. End rant. I agree. It doesn't work fluff-wise, and it kind of throws the balance off the game, because you could be bringing something for a specific power, knowing that it'll synergize well with your list, and then you roll something completely garbage. And that's just it. So it kind of screws you over that way. So you can't depend on them, and so you include them in your list, hoping that you'll roll something good. But if you don't depend on them, then you build your list around something else, but then you do get that power, and it could have, no, it just would be better if you could actually choose. And you might think, well, that would be super powerful because look at what they could choose. Well, you restrict it. Knowing that they can choose, you build the powers that way. Because of course, if with all the powers that there are, there's going to be some that are never chosen because they're not that good, which is why you don't want to roll them. Also, I agree with you about Legolas. In Lord of the Rings, he had brown eyes and woodland/Mirkwood style clothes, and he acted young, which he is for an elf. Yet in The Hobbit, he has bright blue eyes, shiny silver armor, and has his father's attitude. This is 60 years earlier. Did he get robbed or become poor in that time or something? It just doesn't link together like it should. Although Gandalf vs. Sauron was pretty good, I agree. Can't wait to see Galadriel destroy Dol Guldur if they do it in the movie. That's the most magic we've seen Gandalf ever use. It's true. Like he's like this super powerful wizard and he just swings his staff at things, except like to turn on a light or to blast the Nazgul away with the light. That's about, or to protect himself from the Balrog. But yeah, you don't see much magic used. It's just usually swinging his sword. Ultra Prime. Hi, UK Vault member here. Thank you for being a Vault member, Ultra Prime. I just wanted to thank you for all the work you do. You're welcome. There are not many sites that I can enjoy watching with my two gamer sons, and though not religious myself, I do like to listen to your outlook on the subject. Just got my new Tyranid Codex and models, and we look forward to seeing yours on the table. Keep up the great work. Thank you. By the time that you've seen this Sit and Talk, you should have already seen our first new Tyranids Battle Report. Actually, you're a Vault member, so you should have seen our first two new Tyranid Battle Reports. Kurt86, speaking of other companies taking Games Workshop customers, I recently started Infinity thanks to your battle reports. Then I looked at Infinity's prices and it seemed a dream compared to 40k prices. Entire army for about 200 bucks. Just looking at on the local GW Australian website, $91 for a box of 3 Thunderwolf Cavalry, $74 for some Terminators. Just doesn't make any sense how they can charge so much for small plastic models as cool as they look. See, I agree and disagree at the same time. I agree all these other games are great because they are cheaper. But you also have to kind of compare. With Infinity, you're getting just one model, and it's small, and there's no options. Whereas when you're buying 3 Thunderwolf Cavalries, you're getting 3 large models with options. I'm assuming the Thunderwolf Cavalry have options. I know what the Terminators do. And so the prices are actually not as different as you might think. It's just that because of the way War Machine and Infinity's games are built, there's less models, and therefore they cost less, and they're not nearly as complicated. Oh, my back is really itchy. It's so dry. It's like minus 20 Celsius out there right now. That just makes everything dry because no moisture can stay in the air. And now my back is like super itchy. Right there. Oh, just need to moisturize it or something. And so it's not 100% fair to compare the prices of getting into the game, because 40K and Fantasy, especially Fantasy, are larger scale games. And so I think you would actually find that per miniature, either the prices are similar if you're comparing the same size miniatures. Like if you were to buy a box of skeletons, for example, or a box of termagants, you probably find that individually the models are similarly priced, if not cheaper, with Games Workshop. It's just that you need way more, and so yeah, it gets expensive. Are they too expensive? I don't know. I actually don't think they are. I know that a lot of people will get really upset at hearing that, but they can price it however they want, and they are lacking on lower entry cost things, that's for sure. There's no cheap things in 40K, and they do need to rectify that just to allow more people to get into it. But price has never really been one of the issues I've had with Games Workshop. Like businesses just charge whatever they want, and they have to kind of work around that. They have to see how much they can charge. They've got to charge as much as the consumer is willing to pay. And I know some people will say, well, I'm not willing to pay. That's not the way it works necessarily. It's not individually. It's on a larger mob basis, like a group of people. You have to kind of look at it at is that supply and demand curve. Like how high, the higher you charge, the less customers you are, that you have. But sometimes, like if I say I'm charging $1 per thing and I have 100 customers, and I raise my prices to $2 and I lose 25% of my customers, you're thinking, oh, you've lost your customers. But no, now you have 75 buying it at $2. So now instead of 100 buying at $1, making $100, you got 75 buying at $2, and that gives you $150. Now there's more to it than that. I know it's more complicated than that, such as you need new people to come in and all that. But there's a certain point where if you raise your prices too high, then you lose more customers than you make up for in your revenues. Is Games Workshop past that point? I don't know. Their revenue seems to be dropping. I know that the last report it went down, and over the past few years, their revenue's kind of been stagnant, even though their prices have gone up. So you know their number of customers has gone down. But what does that mean? What does that mean for the long run? I don't know, really. It's really hard to predict that kind of thing, especially when we don't have an insider's view. And heck, even those who have an insider's view might not necessarily know exactly what that means for the future, because the future is really hard to predict. You don't know what other companies are going to come out or what technologies are going to disrupt the marketplace. And things like Kickstarter or 3D printing or the internet that came out not too long ago just kind of disrupts the marketplace and allows for other companies to enter in, and in a span of 10 to 20 years you can completely see it change around in the market, which is I think what we're seeing right now. I think we're halfway through that big change in the marketplace ever since the internet came out, allowing people to have options of other things. You're starting to see that finally kick in, and I would give Games Workshop 5 to 10 more years before they're no longer the biggest player, or at least somebody else is seriously rivaling them. That's my prediction. All right. A2D says, hi Matt, as much as I dislike Games Workshop and their games, despite the fact I played them for 10 years, I do not want to see them go. They are a great source of players for better games like Warmahordes, who I do not think are currently doing enough to pull the new players straight to them. What are your thoughts on this? I agree. I don't think that it's as simple as that, because some people, if they stop playing Games Workshop things, will not switch over to another system. That's not necessarily the way it works. But you're right as well, that it's not so much Games Workshop, it's everything. When you have a market, when you throw in another competitor into that market, some people look at it as they're just taking a piece out of that pie, but that's not completely true. They are taking a piece out of the pie, but then they're actually creating more pie themselves. Great analogy, I know. Because they're going to attract customers into that market that the other company never would have. Like we're seeing that now. It was interesting, I went to Black Knight Games, which is a gaming store in Hamilton, and I was playing some Infinity there, and the people I was playing Infinity against had never heard of Mini Wargaming, and that was because Infinity was their first game. Or, I'm assuming that's why. I'm sure there's other people who play 40K who haven't heard of Mini Wargaming. But Infinity was their first game. And I was like, cool, we're starting to see that more. We're starting to see more people coming in and playing War Machine as their first game, or Infinity as their first game. And so that means that market has grown. Eventually those people will tire of Infinity, at least some of them, and some of those people will switch over to another game, whether it's 40K or War Machine or whatever happens to be popular probably around their area. And so when a new company comes in, it'll eat at the revenues and profits of another company, but they'll also contribute their own. So it's good for the consumer, and it actually is good for the smart companies as well, because they'll take advantage of that market growing and be able to capitalize on that. Whereas if it's just Games Workshop, and if we lost Games Workshop, of course, that would be a huge loss. I don't think we will lose Games Workshop. They're too big a company. There's too much in revenues and IP and assets for them to just go under like that. This doesn't happen with big companies like that. They might get sold to another company. Other things might happen, but they're not going to disappear. So we don't have to worry about that. You might see some drastic changes, but nothing that makes them completely go. It would take something very drastic, like, I don't know, all their stores and warehouses just catching fire spontaneously all at the same time. That might put them out of business. I'm not quite sure. Miso Miso. It would be great if you could try one War Machine tournament with Owen, as it will really improve your play. I agree. Yes, the Ender's Game series is good, but I think the first book is by far the best. See, I like the first book, but right now I'm actually finishing the last book, Children of the Mind. And the follow-up series is just so spectacularly awesome that the first book is good in its own right, but it's almost like, not quite, but it's almost like reading The Hobbit as opposed to reading Lord of the Rings. That it's a simpler, but that's not a perfect comparison, because Ender's Game is awesome. But it's almost, even Orson Scott Card said that Ender's Game was written to set up the sequels. Like he wanted to write the sequels, and I can see that, because the sequels are just spectacularly in-depth, awesomely written, just characters that are awesome. It's just everything about it is such a good story. It's like I think it's one of Orson Scott Card's best writings, and I've read quite a few of his books, and some of his books aren't that good. So it's not just that I'm in love with this author, but yeah, I really like the other ones. But it's totally subjective, of course. If you like Ender's Game the most, then that's what you like the most. Since I read some books you recommended, Mistborn, and you have to read what I recommend. That's how it works. I said them before, but here they are again. A Fire Upon the Deep by Vernor Vinge. The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, John le Carre. A Fire Upon the Deep, I think that's been recommended a couple times. Maybe it was by you. So maybe I'll have to check it out. I'm actually interested now. For some reason, something's making me interested in A Fire Upon the Deep, so I'll have to look at that. No promises as to when. Life is pretty busy right now. Lord Raptor. Hi Matt, I was wondering about your opinion on the Satanist statue proposal in Oklahoma. In case you don't know, skip this if you do. There is a monument of the Ten Commandments in the state capitol gardens in Oklahoma. Because of the separation of state and religion, or something, I'm not American, the Satanists want their own statue as a statement of equality. What is your opinion on this? Well, my knee-jerk reaction is that's kind of ludicrous, because, well, first off, I don't completely believe in a complete separation of state and religion. I do agree that the government shouldn't control religion. That's, there shouldn't be a state religion. But you can't separate state and religion. Religion is somebody's fundamental beliefs, like whatever your religion is. Even if your religion is atheism, whatever it happens to be, it's your fundamental beliefs of the way the universe is. So shouldn't that kind of guide the way politics happens? Like if I'm a politician, shouldn't my moral beliefs and ethics that come from my innermost strongest beliefs, which usually comes from religion, even if it's a non-God believing, because religion, really, we can look at it as almost any of those, shouldn't that really drive how I act? Like, wouldn't that kind of tell you something? Wouldn't you be able to look and say, well, he's Mormon, and these are what Mormons believe, and he seems to be as devout as he can, as he tries, and so I know that if he's a politician, he's going to act this way, or he's going to have policies here, and so they can kind of make decisions on that. Why would you want to separate that and say, well, he's Mormon, but he can go against that? So that whole separation of state and religion is kind of like I believe in it partly, and the other part is not. And so when you think of it that way, the United States of America was founded at a time when the majority of people were Christians. And I'm not sure what the stats are now, but I wouldn't be surprised if you still find that that's the case, the majority are. And that there's not a majority of Satanists. So it's not a statement of equality, necessarily. It's not like by having that monument of the Ten Commandments that they're saying this is what you should be doing, but it's more a statement of this is our roots. this is what we were. It's almost a historical thing. Even if you don't believe in it, you can kind of see it as a historical thing, this belief in Christianity and all of that. And that's why it's there. Whereas there is no historical belief in Satanism that formed the government. And obviously I'm against Satanism, but just putting that aside, just talking about it being equality is kind of silly, because there's a bajillion things that they could put there of everybody's beliefs, and that's not the point. The point is, what was it founded on, and what morals and ethics, and you know, that's why it's there. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Some people are obviously going to strongly disagree with this, and that's okay. You're allowed to. It's a free country. That's the great thing about this, is you're allowed to speak out on what your beliefs are, and that as much as somebody else disagrees with them, they need to agree that you're allowed to have those beliefs. And so yeah, obviously I wouldn't want to see that done, because it sounds like it's more a statement of mockery than it's a statement of equality. But that's just more if you look at what those type of people believe. And there's not very many of them. That's what it really comes down to. Should a tiny minority really be able to dictate what happens? And the answer is no. That's not what a democracy is. And that's why I've actually gotten frustrated by that several times, is that minorities seem to kind of dictate what the government can do. It's like, oh, we're a minority, we should have the ability to do what we believe. And it's like, well, yes, you should be able to do what you believe, but this is a democracy, so the majority decides what actually happens with the laws and everything else. So I know I'm treading on kind of delicate areas there, but like I said at the beginning, viewer beware. Zortak, hi Matt. I've heard you complaining several times about the pointlessness of challenges in 40k, especially having Tyranids or other armies in mind that have no chivalrous idea of duels among nobles as part of their culture. I think you have to broaden the range of a definition of a challenge, because it might be more than a simple conventional duel. An Imperial Guard hero ignoring the enemy mob around him and plunges directly to the boss Tyranids is not offering a standard duel, but simply tries to kill a specific opponent. The attack special model can now take exclusive care of its attacker, and so accept the challenge, or being busy to escape an attack by hiding. Or the other way around, if the super mighty Tyranid tries to focus its entire combat power on a special stinking green-skinned orc meal, it's no I challenge you foul green beast for duel, but probably more a this one looks especially tasty, I go on him, forcing the orc to bravely stand the fierce alien or seek shelter. Models mighty or stupid enough to stand in the way of other leader types simply can't be ignored by them. Or as a rule of thumb, for a Green Knight player, if Drago goes directly after you, there's no business as usual. Seeing challenges this way might make it more reasonable in 40k, don't you think? That's actually a very good fluff way to make challenges work. And I like that, actually, and it really does kind of make them sound like something better. Instead of a sergeant being like, I challenge you, Turbogon, which they can't do anymore because Turbogons aren't characters. It's more like I'm stepping out in front of the Turbogon, and the Turbogon has to squish me first. And I still don't like challenges mechanics-wise, because I think it throws off. And so it throws in too many weird scenarios where people can kind of abuse that rule. I can see it fluff-wise it could work, but in the actual game, it just kind of gets frustrating sometimes. So, like a mob of boys with one knob of the Power Claw charges in to a Hive Tyrant, and the Hive Tyrant, knowing that he can probably take the wounds from the knob, but the combination of like the 20 other boys there is going to probably finish him off, and so he goes, I challenge you, Knob, and the Knob's like, crap. Either I don't attack and I lose those 4 attacks that are probably going to actually be the ones that take off most of his wounds, or I accept and I only get those attacks, which probably won't be enough to completely kill him. And either way, he's charged in knowing that he's got the firepower to do this, and that just gets negated. I know you can kind of think, well, that can happen, so you have to prepare for that, and it's true, but it just makes things harder for players like that. TG22 Sean, hey Matt, thanks for the suggestions. I've watched what you've put up on Dreadball and I really like them. And I loved Star Wars since I was a kid. I love painting my miniatures, but maybe not having to paint them, I will give me time to paint my 40k models. The youngest member of my family is 13, and the reason I mention my family because they feel left out since I spend a lot of time playing 40k with my friends. Another note, what's your favorite Hive Fleet for Tyranids and Dynasty for Necrons? Also your favorite HQ for Beach Army. Make note, I'm talking fluff-wise. I like my Hive Fleet the best. I don't actually know a lot of the fluff of all the different Hive Fleets, at least not off the top of my head. Like, I've read a lot of it, but I don't remember which one's which. But I like, if you're looking look-wise, I like the High Fleet Kraken, which is kind of what I based my color scheme off of. It's slightly variation. It's more of a yellow-brown than the whitish brown that they have for their skin. But I don't know, actually, which High Fleet is coolest. Like, I know there's, like, High Fleet Behemoth. That's the one that they fought on Ultramar. But I actually don't know a lot about the fluff besides just, like, the basic idea of, like, what are you reading the codexes, basically. So I know they have a few different High Fleets, but I don't remember their names. And so I don't remember which, I've never actually thought I've had a favorite. Same with the Dynasties. I didn't really actually read much about the Dynasties for the Necrons. For HQ, I would say for the Tyranids, either Old One-Eye. Like, effectiveness in the game, Hive Tyrant is by far, obviously, the best. But Old One-Eye is just kind of a cool, fluff-wise. I do enjoy him. Or the Death Leaper. I really like those two characters. For the Necrons, I usually just bring basic Overlords, but if I was actually to look at which one I like fluff-wise, I think Trazy the Infinite is kind of the cool one. You know, he collects things, and it's hard to kill him because he just takes the body of somebody else. So I think it's really cool. Red Raptor. Hi, Matt. I want to make a comment about how you mentioned that a lot of people can't get the digital downloads from GW if they don't have any devices to support it. I went through this for Christmas when I bought the Adeptus Sororitas Codex for my father in an effort to get him to break out of his army again. Neither of us have a mobile device. You can get a program such as Adobe Digital Editions that can read EPUB files, so you can open them on home computers. Just thought I'd mention this in case you, your viewers, were not aware. And it wasn't. I'll have to take a look at that. Because we were actually talking about maybe buying an iPad for the business because we actually needed to access those. Martial Aid. We work so you can play. So who came up with this one? You or Dave? Story. I don't remember.
I came up with it.
Did you come up with it, Justin?
Yes.
Okay. Justin came up with it. What made you come up with that? What made you think of it?
We were doing a contest in the office to come with a new tagline.
Okay.
I just thought of that one.
So I guess we had a contest. I forgot about this. We had a contest in the office for who could come up with a good tagline, and Justin just kind of said, "We work so you can play," and we liked it. There you go. There's the story. Skulled or Skulled. Hey, would you guys consider doing bat reps using models and rules from Forge World? I've actually been asked that before, and the answer is sure, but we just don't have very many. In fact, well, actually, I just did a escalation with John not too long ago, and I was using models from Forge World. So, yeah. General Cross. Hey Matt, I know you guys have loads of different war games to cover and investigate, but I was wondering if you've tried Malifaux. It's a fairly quick system, blah blah blah. Okay, I've talked about this before, so I'll mention it again, because obviously there's always new viewers. Malifaux is something I don't really want to cover, because as much as every game kind of has kind of some sexuality to it, Malifaux seems to kind of have more of it, and so I just don't care for that. We try to keep this family friendly. I know that Infinity has some, even 40k and Fantasy have a bit, although hardly any. War Machine is actually probably one of the cleanest ones, that wise. But Malifaux is, there's just too much of it, and so I'm just not interested in that. Also not a big fan of horror, but I probably would have covered it if it wasn't for that. Morning, Chris.
Morning.
So here's a question. If you were creating a poll for the community on what game to cover next, what would your shortlist be? I would say... I've been hearing that Kings of War is gaining in popularity. So maybe that one. Maybe Drop Zone Commander. What would your shortlist be? Here's a question. Howling Wolf, 1337. Hey Matt, I just made Hawk Talon, Drop Zone Commander representative, and love the game so much. Where 40k is a lot about rolling dice, Drop Zone Commander is about strategy, and it is so much fun. Hope that you painted set is coming soon, and maybe you see some bat reps. You will love the Scourge. I've actually played it before at a Valhalla. The owner, Dave, was there, and he actually demoed the game. And I have the painted set back there. We just need to slot it in so we can just do a bat rep for it. We're not going to cover it regularly just because we can't. But probably play a game or two with the starter set. Davian, Chaos players' view of challenges. Challenges are a vital part of the Chaos Space Marine Codex. Without it, we have a hard time getting rolls on our boon chart. This silly chart is what they gave us instead of chapter tactics, in a vain and unsuccessful attempt to bring some level of parity to our Codex versus Space Marines. As such, I'm glad the rule is the way it is. How else could my super bike tar pit the Swarm Lord for 4 rounds? Yeah, see, that's just it. It just turns into a tar pit. That's the real problem. Although it's funny, because when I was at Valhalla, well, maybe it was against you, they had like, oh, I think it was like, not Typhus, there was one of the named characters, the Chaos guys, who came up and killed one of my weak characters in a challenge and then turned into a spawn. It was just so bad. So if you call that a necessity, then, well, whatever. You Lost the Game says, as a huge Tyranid fan myself, the Codex has been a disappointment, but I'm still determined to find effective use out of it. My question is, you have given us your opinions so far on the new rules of Tyranids, but what is your opinion on the new fluff that has been introduced? Now, you asked this question, I actually noticed this question earlier, so I started to read, but I haven't read past like the first or second page, just haven't had time yet. So ask that question again maybe this time, and hopefully by next week I'll have an answer for you. Das Starks, what is your favorite Tyranid Codex change and least favorite? Hive Tyrant Blizzard Skill 4. Venom Thrope, now shrouding everything within 6 inches. Carnifex is becoming super awesome now because you can actually fit enough of them because points-wise they've gotten cheaper. And they actually have other abilities they can take now. That's my favorite. Least favorite, Turbogon getting nerfed so bad that he's now completely useless. I tried him in a game, as you'll see in the next battle report. Yeah, that's my least favorite, I have to say. Other stuff is kind of still up for grabs because I'm finding that the changes, and the psychic chart, the new psychic powers aren't that great. I've tried them, and I've played 4 games with them now. And it's like, yeah, this is nothing like what they used to have. It's not even that good. Like, it's okay, but it's, there's some useful stuff that can happen there. But for the most part, it's a weak comparison to what they used to have access to. And you can't say, well, Biomancy is overpowered. It's in the main rule book. People have access to it. Other people have it too. So. Alright, also Darstark says, also I agree on your views on the data slates. It's really annoying that GW thinks this is acceptable. We pay so much already. By the way, love you and Mini Wargaming to bits. Thank you so much for bringing out more 40k beat map bat refs. I love your battle reports. Thank you. I am trying to do them every week now. Keyword, trying. Lord Commissar Evan. I agree with Zortak's comments about challenge. There's many ways a challenge can be interpreted. When fighting the dinosaur bugs with my Ravenwing, for example, I just think of it as a sergeant sacrificing himself. I do think, though, there should be certain units or special world that ignores the aspects of the challenges, but that would be probably too tricky to implement without a new edition. Well, the nice thing about Tyranid changes is like Turbogon, as much as they got nerfed big time, they're no longer characters. And while that sometimes will be a disadvantage, most of the time it will be an advantage, because when they charge in or when they're in combat, they don't get stuck or tar pitted just to attack the sergeant. Anyway, do you think a Genestealer cult supplement is feasible? It'd be a good boost to the lackluster codex and oh so fluffy, but then again I have little faith in GW doing anything cool and or logical. I think it would be fun. Is it feasible? I have no idea. It's so hard to predict what they're going to do. It's so interesting. Cutthroats, hi Matt, longtime viewer and longish vault member. Really enjoy your content. Thank you for being a longish vault member. That's how this building is paid for and our employees and everything else. 90% of it is the vault. I have 2 questions. Firstly, War Machine. I believe some in this video, the one from Saturday, provided some great feedback regarding the War Machine League, but I'm not sure you answered the big question of when we are going to see some more backups. Is there a plan? There is a plan. I would estimate that you'll see some new War Machine bat reps within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then within the next month or 2, you should start seeing them weekly. And they should become a permanent weekly part of Mini Wargaming. And that's what we're currently working on. And I can't say much more than that because I find that if I say something then everybody holds me to it. But we're working on that. That's we're really wanting. The way I'm kind of envisioning this year is I want to cover 40k really well in battle reports, which we've kind of been doing, but I want to improve that. I want to cover War Machine on a weekly basis. And Infinity, we're probably going to take a short break from it, or at least kind of slow down our coverage of it until we can get more armies painted up. And then we'll come back, and I plan on covering that one probably weekly, if not bi-weekly. And then we're also going to cover smaller games kind of in spurts. So we might like we're doing Dreadball League for a little while, and then that finishes. And how we did Star Wars for a little while, but we might come back to those games, that kind of thing. And that'll allow us to kind of sample other games as well, while still maintaining those core things. 40K and War Machine. Fantasy I want to get in there as well. So for you fantasy players, don't worry. It's just it's a little tougher. It's hard to balance all that because I want 40K War Machine Fantasy, and then secondarily Infinity, and then tertiarily all those other games that we kind of just cover in spurts. So that's the plan, and it's not going to be perfect. We're just a small company with just a handful of employees, and we're trying to figure out how we can do that. And especially because we need access to players, and that's actually our biggest limiting factor. It's not so much manpower, but players to play against. So that's what I'm hoping for, and so we'll see what happens. Yeah, and then you ask. Also, what are your goals for Mini Wargaming this year? There you go. Read your mind. Octopus Prime. Matt, Tyranids were my first army back in 3rd edition, and I'm also disappointed with the new codex. I really was expecting changes to make Warriors and Gene Stealers viable again. I was not expecting Eternal Warrior. No, that would be too dumb. But I was hoping all Synapse creatures would get a 5+ save. They would have given Warriors a chance against Strength 8 weapons. I've been playing with Warriors, and I don't see them dying all the time to Strength 8 weapons. And if they are, then the Strength 8 weapons aren't firing at your card effects and your other big guys. So I don't see that as big an issue. So the Synapse stuff I don't have as much a problem with. As much as it's hugely a disadvantage now to be at a Synapse, you have a lot more ways of providing it, with especially with things like the Dominion Psychic Power, and like that crown, and that one's like the one random Warlord trait that gives you +6 to your Synapse range. So you can do it. You now have to just adapt your strategy. So like the Tyranids, kind of picture yourself as like the hive mind. And so when they come up with a new Tyranid Codex, it's like the Space Marines throwing a new threat at you. So the enemy is the Codex, and you're the hive mind. You need to adapt to the Codex. Think of it that way, and it also becomes maybe a little fun. That's what I had to do. Also, I was wondering what you think GW should do to turn things around and start increasing their player base. Whew, that's a loaded question, because you're assuming that I actually would give a good answer. From my point of view, they are lacking in a couple areas greatly, and like a dozen other areas too. But one is PR. They're faceless, except for their stores. Like you go into that, but otherwise the company is faceless. There's no personality behind it. There's nobody that you can talk to or relate to. Not that you need to be able to email Mr. Kirby or anything like that and get a response from him. I'm not talking about that. I just mean like this is more PR. Like remember those Wendy's commercials? That was the owner of Wendy's, and he was in the commercials. Like that gave that there's a personality all of a sudden to that, and I thought that was really good. And it's harder to hate a company that has there's a personality that kind of comes out and they're a little more transparent. Now the problem is they're a public company, and so there's a lot more pressures on them than we can really appreciate. Whereas another company that's not public could go through a year where their revenues go down a little and their profits go down. A public company, like they posted those financials, and I believe when I read them, they were still profitable, and yet everybody's like, oh my goodness, they're less profitable than last year. It's like th're profitable, like that's still good. Like, and yet, boom, their stocks dropped 23%, and everybody's crying bloody murder and that they're about to die, and yet they're profitable. I'll take less profit over no profit any day. So, and remember, like profits after paying employees and paying management and paying all this other stuff. So it's like they're making money and they're still profitable and they're taking home a good pay. And it's like, that's success, I hate to tell you. So, but I think that their PR could really be improved, like 100,000 billion times better. Well, maybe infinitely, because right now it's like a 0. And I think the second thing is probably they need to find a way to make it easier to get in. Like right now, what's the cheap way to get in? There is no cheap way. Like you say the starter set, well that's over $100. That's not cheap, especially when you have to consider all the other stuff you have to get to go with it, like your paints and your glue and all that. They need something cheaper, even if it's a loss leader of sorts, but just cheaper to get into the game. A cheaper starter set, just something to make it more accessible to a new player. And because right now they're only catering to the elite. That's really what it is. Only people who have lots of money And I know that not everybody plays is rich, but I mean people who are willing to spend all that kind of money on it. And that's going to there's a bigger market out there of gamers and hobbyists who would be interested in this, but they just can't afford it. So that's what I think. Octopus Brian, previous post should have read 5 plus and vulnerable save, but the plus disappeared. Yeah, I've got to fix the comments thing so it doesn't make those things disappear. Takum, having played and collected 40k for some time now, I can say that even with the new codexes, I still enjoy it. I've collected 3 armies, Chaos, Nids, and Eldar. It's been an uphill climb making my Nids and Chaos work, but I have to say I enjoy that much more than my Eldar's tactics. Playing weaker armies seems to make you have to think more, and with a bit of luck, make it work. While stronger armies are easier to play, having to work for your victory, catch a lucky save or two, and winning always feels better than, oh, I won because my book is better. I agree. I like trying out lists that aren't as powerful to see if I can make up for it with tactics. Or to find those hidden things, those combos. Slartarama. Hi Matt, I really enjoy the vault. Not just the bat rest, but the tutorials and the random things. Thank you. Would you mind doing more of the which side would win videos? Sorry, I might have the title wrong. So it was who would win. I really enjoyed watching those squad versus squad videos. And we might bring that back. I don't get to play very much anymore, and I have been in 40k since the beginning, so I've been seen a fair amount of rules changes. I have the 6th edition rulebook, and I like some of the things they've done, but oh my gosh, so many rules. Do you think one of GW problems that balances the overcomplication that they do? I don't think so. War Machine is quite complicated, and they seem to strike a balance. I think that their rules need a simplification, but it's not a balance issue as much as it is just a remembering everything issue. On that same note, I also really appreciate the short how to play videos that you did for 6. Keep those up. I really do enjoy the vault, and you guys have put a ton into it since you have moved away from the store. My only complaint would be some of the bat reps are either hard to hear, or the camera moves so fast it is hard to watch. Sort of like Cloverfield. We're working on improving that. I saw some other comments on that, and after watching the latest reports, the camera has been great. Just feedback, not trying to nitpick. No, that's great. Need the good feedback. And we are trying to improve that. I hope that you've been noticing that. Astroman 1980. Hi Matt Green from Wisconsin. What time is it? Okay, we still have time. Love what you guys do. Your bat reps and tutorial videos is what made me want to start gaming. Currently my sons and I play X-Wing. I also play 40k War Machine. My son, who is 7, has really taken to X-Wing, and I will admit does beat me quite a bit. Wow. And when he doesn't, he gives me a run for my money. He is 7. He has since taken an interest in 40k. He has started to read the rules and wants to start a Chaos Space Marine army. My question is, when would you think would be appropriate for a kid to start games like 40k or War Machine? It is amazing to see someone so young soak up the information when it comes to the rules for X-Wing, and 40k has been like a sponge. That's a tough question. Typically you see it around like 12 or 13 is when they get into it. Show off. But obviously every kid's different, because if your child is 7 and he seems to be able to understand it, that might be a good time to get into it. Obviously, as he gets older, he'll get wiser, and be able to do tactics better. But you just have to kind of find what's comfortable for you. It's a rather complicated hobby, like complicated game. I think we take that for granted, the people who have been playing for a while. It's actually quite complicated to learn how to play these games. Whereas Star Wars is simpler and allows people to kind of get into it more. So, I don't know, I've always, in my mind, it's always been like 12 or 13. But it'll be interesting to see if my son, when he gets interested in it, if he gets interested in it. My second question is, why doesn't Games Workshop come out with some sort of army builder app? The Android app that's out there for War Machine are great and use them quite a bit. Just curious as to when Games Workshop will get out of the dark ages, considering how many digital downloads that they have already released. Keep up the good work. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually do it now, that they have a way to control it. But yeah, they should do that. But then they'd have to keep up with updating it with all the crazy FAQs and erratas that come out. Mickey Levy, hi Matt. Just around the why did they remove these models from the Codex question, one of the most pervasive conspiracy theories I saw was that they removed units that they did not have models at GW. A lot of people had Spore Pods and Dooms and Yumgarl heads from third-party manufacturers such as Chapter House and Hydrocast, and theories that GW wanted to cut all that stuff out of the equation. I actually believe that. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. I think it's pretty obvious, because it's their way of kind of winning the battle without having won it. So yeah, I agree with that. They won't be making that mistake again, coming out with all sorts of rules without the actual models. At least not without some sort of concept art or something that shows what it'll look like. I've heard a lot of people lately start to put 40K into the beer and pretzels category of games, particularly given the general trend and direction of GW's rule model releases. Do you tend to agree with this? Of course, the obvious joke here is that some people prefer cheese and wine with an H, as in whining. Yeah, I think you can't take that game seriously. I don't think you've been able to. You can't really take it seriously forever. Ever since I started playing it, I've noticed that there is a severe imbalance everywhere, and so you kind of have to go into it realizing that whenever I played tournaments, I always saw cheese lists. I've played since 4th edition, and I haven't seen that change. And has it gotten worse? No. It's always been that way. It's always been a huge imbalance. Whereas War Machine kind of has tended towards balance. They've improved their balance. And so, yeah, I've always seen it that way. Anybody who's thought it was a tournament thing, I think the only reason that you now hear it more is that those people have been playing it longer and finally realize, hey, wait a second, this game isn't balanced. So why are we trying to play it as if it is? So yeah, I would agree with that. Although I don't drink beer. Or wine. I can eat pretzels though, and cheese. I like cheese. Mickey Levy. Oh, and one thing about the digital releases, they are also available as ebooks from Black Library, and these can be viewed on PC. The license even allows for the printing off of a personal hard copy. Okay. And how's the hunt for a new battle reporter going? Are you looking amongst the regular visitors, or looking further afield for something new? I'm not going to talk about that right now. It's going well. Let me just put it that way. Wow, you got a lot of comments here, Mickey Levy. Okay, around the "they suck at making a balanced game" comment, I'm starting to change my mind on this. I'm more of a fantasy player than 40K, and frankly, I think the balance in fantasy has really never been better. Armies injected with cheese and overpowered nonsense can still be regularly and soundly beaten by armies that have been beat with a Nerf bat. That's because it's random. And when you take something that's this good and something that's this good, but then you throw in this much randomness, they overlap a lot. See, this one's here and this one's here, and so you have this huge overlap that most of the time you won't notice how overpowered and underpowered this one is. Because you roll magic and it's like, here we go, what's gonna happen? Am I gonna lose? I don't know. It's just so random. So the incredibly large amount of randomness, like my charge, is it going to make it? I don't know. I'm just going to do it. I should make this one. Oh, double one. No, I didn't make it. I should have. I'm 3 inches away. Why did I make that from a charge? Like, really, like it's just completely thrown off that way. I don't mind randomness, but there's a certain point where it's just like you should have like randomness, not randomness. And that's what this is. This is like 40K. Actually, this is 40, the fantasy even more random. All right. Ronan, CSC. This was the first Sit and Talk I've listened to, and it was quite informative. Thank you. So thanks for that and all your other hard work. You're welcome. Anyways, quick question. I'm going to finally start a Tyranid army despite the Codex doom and gloom, and since I really like the new Tyrant Guard models, I'm going to start with a Walking Tyrant. Would you recommend a regular Hive Tyrant or the Swarm Lord in that case? Thanks. I prefer the Hive Tyrant over the Swarm Lord, period, because he can bring 2 Twin Link Devours. That's really what I like to bring with him. 2 Twin Link Devours is like the best shooting weapon that the Tyranids have. 12, strength 6, twin link shots on a Hive Tyrant, hitting on 3+ is awesome. And that's just really all there is to it. So the Swarm Lord, I haven't really played with him yet, so the Psychic level 3 sounds cool until you realize that that's 3 Psychic powers from the Tyranid Psychic powers, and it's like, big deal. But the Hive Tyrant Psychic level 2, so he's almost there. Like, he doesn't get like the extra rules and stuff. The Swarm Lord is good, don't get me wrong, but if I had to choose between the two, I choose the Hive Tyrant. Having said that, I would choose a Hive Tyrant with wings, with 2 Twin Link powers, and that would be awesome. But if you want it on foot, that works too. I'm sure there's a way to make it really super powerful in close combat, but if you're going to do that, then bring the Swarm Lord, because he's awesome in close combat. Anyways, Jovinson. I started Warhammer 40K lesson 1 year ago. I really love watching battle reports and mini wargaming, especially Tyranids bat rep, as I get to know so much knowledge about it while learning mine. Thank you, mini wargaming team. You guys are awesome. Thank you, and you're welcome. Miso. Even if you don't go into Southern Ontario Open Tournament for War Machine, could you try doing some competitive battle reports? Steamroll a random scenario with a clock and maybe making 3 lists with character restrictions. Would be good to see you go about making 3 lists. I suggest one of Butchers, one of Lads, and one of Sources. I haven't actually played War Machine for a while. I'm not sure if you noticed that. But the War Machine League was all competitive. But we'll be seeing more War Machine stuff, don't worry. Mecha82, would it be possible to get Flames of War content into mini wargaming? Yes, anything's possible. Grumph, any plans on converting historical games or covering historical games? No. Demon Prince yourself. Hey Matt, do you think if GW went out and got a new game designer who is recognized as creating a great game to go along with GW's great miniatures, that sales would increase for Games Workshop? Or do you think that the real problem for them lies in high cost? Or do you think there is simply no hope for recovery for Games Workshop? I don't think the problem is the game. Like, the game is a problem, but it's not the problem. It's just one of their problems. So you correct the game, that you're still not going to correct all the other problems that they have, like their PR and their distribution and their inability to grasp what the internet actually is. And they're like torn between, no, you can't sell online, and no, we have our digital editions, and now we want everybody to buy from us. So we have all these, like, it's like, make up your mind, which one are you going to do? And so, yeah, there's lots of other problems. My Pet Carnifex. Hey Matt, your vids got me to Warhammer 40k a couple months ago, and I chose to collect Tyranids. I have a small army. And I was wondering what you think would be the best model to get now the new codex is out. I was planning to get a Turbogon, but after seeing the way that Games Workshop has ruined Turbogons in the latest update, I'm not so sure. Don't get Turbogons. I might change my tune after I've played them a few more games, but I played them in a couple games, or one game, and it's like, no, don't get them. Which do you think would be the most effective model to get for a small, medium-sized game? Carnifexes. Yes. In a 1,000-point game, you can fit 3 of them. And now, if you're not going for a cheesy list, 1 Carnifex. And then warriors. Like in a smaller game, you're going to look for lots of warriors. Because I'm assuming if your opponent's doing a smaller game, he's not just bringing super strength 8 everywhere lists. So warriors and Hormagaunts and maybe a Carnifex or 2. A Hive Tyrant is good. Even at a smaller scale, Hive Tyrant's fine because your gaunts and stuff are so cheap that you can still get lots of guys in there. And Zoanthropes, Venomthropes. Venomthropes in a small scale would be awesome because they're cheap, but they just make your army like super awesome. And yeah. Biovores, they're cheap and awesome heavy support. So on a smaller scale, they're just great. There you go. Das Starks, hi Matt, just played a game with the new NIDS, running warriors and Venomthropes supporting Hormagaunts with some Carnifexes and Hive Tyrant with a new guard to lead a lot along with the Hive Crone. It went really well. It can counter the new crap your instinctive behavior rules nicely. Looks like warriors are back on the must-have in an army list. I agree. Mockrite, hey there, if it wasn't for you guys, mostly banter bat reps, I wouldn't have got back into 40k. Just have a quick question about the Adepta Sororitas. Which rules are the most current? The 2-part article in White Dwarf or the digital download codex? I believe the digital download codex. Because I noticed in your 40k league there's a squadron of exorcists, but they're not in the digital download. Keep up the good work, you guys. Great bat reps, quick tips, and train guides. It's possible they use the older rules. I believe the most current are the digital download. Eldrad 101, Matt, I'm a fellow Necron collector, and I would like to know what I should add to my army. I have 2 Overlords, 36 Warriors, 5 Deathmarks, 5 Immortals, 12 Scarabs, 5 Lich Guard, and a Monolith. I would love your opinion on what I should add. Thanks a lot. You need to add a couple Night Size. Warlord Scanter 97, hello my good man. Hello. I recently had a game against Warriors of Chaos, and as you can tell by my username, I am playing Skaven. My question is about the Warp Lightning Cannon. It reads, no armor saves are allowed against any shots from the Warp Lightning Cannon, and each unsaved wound is multiplied into d6 wounds. I shot and hit the Warrior Chaos Manticore, and he has a regeneration save. Would I multiply the wounds, and then he takes his regeneration save against each wound? Or would he take the regen save, and then if he fails, I multiply it? I would say that he multiplies it after he fails it, because each unsaved wound is multiplied. And if you're calling the regeneration save a save, then that would be a save before the unsaved. Also, I've been thinking of playing Town 40k, and I would like to know what your opinion on them is. They're very strong. Probably one of the better shooting armies out there. Skull Special. Hey Matt, will you play Battletech or anyone else at Mini Wargaming? Will I play Battletech or anyone else? Is Battletech a person at Mini Wargaming? Sorry, just grammar.
Battletech's an awesome game.
Battletech is the game that Dave and I started on back when we were teenagers. I haven't played it's like the current edition. It's like, we played it like 4 or 5 editions ago.
Yeah.
So,
I enjoyed it.
I loved the whole in-depth, like you had like a whole 8.5 by 11 sheet for every mech that was on the field, and it's like super detailed. And it was, you didn't play with very many models because it was just so in-depth. And that was really fun. It took a long time to play, but it was a lot of fun. That is a game that I have an interest in looking at. I'm not a big fan of the mech kind of games anymore, but it's more for nostalgia purposes. Being the very, very first game we ever played that's classified as a miniature war game. Kind of want to look at it again. No plans for it, though. Tyler6298, quick spore mine question. Their thing is that they have a bigger strength and bigger units. Could you have 2 units of 3 spore mines charge at once and blow up with strength 10? No, it would. They still act individually as units. So it'd be 2 strength 6 blasts, not 7. It's for each additional one. You get a +1 strength. Are you ever going to do any more fantasy bat reps? I'd love to see your playstyle. I'm sure I will, but not anytime soon. I've been super busy. I've been making between 4 to 6 battle reports a week, trying to keep up with the 40k Infinity and now the Dreadball League as well. Yeah, proper tournaments are impossible these days. The Revenant Titan at 900 points is 4 strength D, AP2 large blast. Broken? Yeah, exactly. That just shows. JG Ponage, who won the 40k League? Haven't seen one of those in a while. The last one just went up this week, and the results will be posted next week, I believe. Sir, hi. Hi, Matt. I have a question. When do you earn more money? If I watch your videos on YouTube or if I watch them on miniwargaming.com? It's the same. The reason we like you to watch them on miniwargaming.com is because then we have our other ads to try to get you into the vault. But if you're already a vault member, then you're already doing great. So thank you very much. If you're not a vault member, then just watching our videos, commenting, sharing them, anything like that will help us. Stressfuls Ebby, hi Matt, I've been looking through the Mini Wargaming Tactic page and I can't find many videos for Vanilla Marines. I'm relatively new to 40k and I find that I usually just move forward with my units and get annihilated. It's because nobody really plays Vanilla Marines here. Not yet. We're kind of getting into them now, so we don't have any tactics for them, so sorry. Thermal. Hey Matt, thanks as always for answering my last question. You're welcome. A question about YouTube revenue. Recently tried monetizing some of the GBHL channel's videos. To create revenue, do you tick both ad formats, overlay and TrueStream ads, plus make available on all platforms? Yeah, I check everything possible. And at what point will a video start generating income and roughly what does this work out at? It's different for every video and every producer. So I can't, and I'm not really supposed to share specific numbers. That's part of the contract that's there for Google. But just don't expect to make much money, is all I will say. Let me put it this way. We get about 1 million views per month, and that covers the income of 1.5 employees.
How do you have half an employee?
Well, Chris is the 1.5 employees.
I am 1.5.
So yeah, it makes such a it's nice. It's a good amount of money, but even like yeah, it's when I say 1.5 employees, I mean like mostly part-time too. It's just it's not that much money. So don't expect to make much money from YouTube. You might make a little extra. It'll be kind of a nice little spending money, but that is not how you will make a living. Just trust me on that one. Even those people who have lots of views on their videos, like it takes a lot of views for it to be a good income for a single or 2 people. So most of those people are making money elsewhere as well, like sponsorships and swag and all that. And at what point, well, okay, also what is your conversion rate from subscribers on YouTube to members of Mini Wargaming from members to vault members? Any retention and attrition? Those are numbers I'd rather not share, because those are pretty sensitive, that's pretty sensitive information. So, yeah. And at what point did you decide to start a vault membership? Was it after a certain number of subscribers on YouTube or a business plan from the beginning? It wasn't a business plan from the beginning. It's about 1 year or 2 into the business, I just decided I wanted to try it. And that's really all there was to it. We didn't have a huge business plan from the beginning. Our business plan was simple: have a YouTube channel and our web store. The YouTube channel to drive traffic to our web store to then make money from selling the stuff, and that's obviously changed over the years. Warhammer lore. Hey Matt, been watching about 6 months and love all the stuff you guys do. Really liking the Dreadball League right no, but I digress. I recently watched your first impressions of the new Tyranny Codex, and with the changes they made, it seems like they are trying to push players to take units that can take a bunch of wounds with light infantry as support. Wondering if you had drawn similar conclusions, or am I just being crazy? I don't think they have many intentions when they create this, except removing the stuff that Chapter House made and saying, we've sold enough Turbogons, let's nerf it. We're no longer selling any Carnifexes, let's make them better. And that's honestly how I think they do it. I think that maybe not always intentionally, but they always like try to manipulate the codex, so they're like switching it. So it's like, okay, let's make them play the other stuff now. And part of that's good, and part of it's not, obviously. Because people spend a lot of money on their miniatures. They don't want them to be obsolete. Just saying. Colonel Craig, what's your opinion on Games Workshop stock losing 25% of its value last year? What direction do you think the company should take? Good question. I already answered it. Not your fault for not knowing that, because I hadn't made the video yet when you posted your comments 2 days ago. Nurgle82, I'm at just a quick question now. I don't have time to watch every video you guys put up, so it's possible I missed it. But how come I haven't seen any 40k bat reps from Owen? What's going on there? Owen was busy doing the War Machine League when we were doing that, and then he was the one doing the Warhammer Fantasy League. So that was kind of his thing. So he was just doing fantasy. That's why. Tamadrum. Hey Matt, love your shows. Thank you. I too am undecided about the new codex. I did want to throw one thing out to you about the Turbogon nerf. At first glance it looks like GW destroyed them. But maybe we just need to play them differently. I believe the new codex, the spawning now happens at the end of the movement phase because instead of the previous codex when it happens before movement. Oh yeah, I must have read that wrong because I was doing it before. Well, maybe we just buy the 30 guards, move the Turbogon to troops, give him electroshock grubs, thorax biomorph along with the bio-artifact venom cannon, and outflank him by using Hive Commander. In doing this, you can now move on the board and then spawn the guns for objectives. And now you have 2 template weapons, one with Haywire and with 2 poison. I don't know, could be something to look at. If you're right, that would be interesting. I'm going to have to take a look at that. That's actually very interesting. If he spawns guns after he arrives, or after he moves, instead of before. I don't have my codex nearby, so I can't verify that. But that's kind of interesting. I like your thinking. Fabian, Matt, will you ever wear the shirt I gave you at Valhalla on camera? Man. Yes, I will. I just have my pile of t-shirts. I've just been wearing those. I keep forgetting. I'm sorry. I've been forgetting. I will wear it on camera. I promise. Ravenous Orc. Hi, Matt. I've been a long-time viewer, but I must know the story behind the religion disclaimer at the beginning of Sit and Talk, as well as which new Tyranid unit you are liking. Those are very related. The reason for the disclaimer is because in the past, when I've talked about religion, people are like, I don't come here to listen to you talk about religion. I'm here to listen to wargaming stuff. Sorry, that's a very mocking tone, but that's kind of the way it sounded. And the answer to that is the Sit and Talk is not a wargaming thing. It's a Sit and Talk. You ask me whatever questions you want and I answer them. And so look, the topic of religion has come up. And if you don't like it, that's now I put the disclaimer. So now I'm like, if you don't like hearing it, then go and watch some of the other stuff. Because every other video we put out is wargaming. What are you looking at?
Because I was going to say, you should be doing it in the nerd voice. Geez, everybody, I just want to play games.
I just want to play games, everybody. Sorry, I really don't. It's more just, people get interesting on the internet. Like when they get the anonymity of being able to post comments, sometimes they can get a little foolish. And so if you listen to the intent of the show is just ask me questions of whatever you want. It's get to know me. And so it comes up. So now I put the disclaimer at the beginning, and ever since I've done that disclaimer, I haven't had a problem. Because people that don't like religion, I'm assuming are like, oh, yeah, and then turn it off. And I'm like, yay, they can go watch something else and not complain on this channel about that stuff. And then people who are like, yeah, okay, I'll listen to you. And trust me, a lot of people who email me asking me questions, they're not like, yes, I want to convert to your religion. It's more just like, and I've always wanted to be able to ask these questions, but I've never felt comfortable asking somebody, and so I can ask you. And sometimes they're asking very hard questions, things that it's very fundamental questions, and so it's great. It's good dialogue, it's good conversation, and I think that's what we need in this world. Is better dialogue, not, no, you're not allowed to talk about that. No, this is a public place, you're not allowed to talk about that. Like, why not? This is like our fundamental everything in us. This is just who I am, and you're not letting me talk about it. It's like, what's up with that, all right? Like, anybody can do that. And if I don't agree with it, like there's some channels that talked about atheism, and the way the guy talked about it was in a very condescending way, and I watched one of the videos, I'm like, I don't like the way you talk about it, so I will stop watching you. I didn't go and post comments and hating and saying that, you shouldn't be doing this. It's like, no, he can do that. He's allowed to. I don't like it, so I won't watch it. And rant. And as well as which new Tyranid unit are you liking? I've already answered that. Thermal. I've been making do with my iPhone camera for filming bat reps for our channel, but of course main issues are sometimes sound, focusing, and memory, as well as using an iPhone to film bat reports. Even though the picture is pretty good. Yeah, that's true. They're getting better. What camera would you recommend for filming bat reports? I would go and get about a $300 to $400 HD camcorder that has a microphone input. The reason I say you have a microphone input is so that you have the option of having it. You don't have to use it for your battle reports, but it's nice for other uses. But spend a few $100s on it. You don't have to spend the couple thousand that these cameras cost. We didn't even have these until like not even a year ago. So until then we were just using the Canon Vixia line. That's what we were using. Just like the entry-level $300 to $400 cameras. And those work great. They do. They work great. Really what it comes down to is having really good lighting. If you have bad lighting, a good camera won't even really make up for that. And if you have good lighting, a bad camera will actually look 100 times better. So make sure there's really good lighting. And if you can't have good lighting, then just do the best you can. Bardor, Matt, have ever played any of the XCOM games? You betcha! I'm playing it right now, actually. The XCOM Enemy Unknown is the actual game. And I loved it. It was only a few weeks ago that I found it and I bought it, and I played through it a few times. Like, I just love it. Well, I only played through it twice, but I started playing it and then I started over, and I started playing, and I started over, and then I played. I just love it. It's such a fun game. I never thought I could like a turn-based tactical game as much as I do. Now I wish every game was turn-based because it's just so much fun. It takes the pressure off of the real-time stuff, but it gives you such cool everything else. And it's so much that's cool about it. The story is pretty drab. You don't really care about any of the characters except for the guys that you build up. And you're like, oh no, I lost him because I lost so-and-so. What's his name? I don't remember his name. He was a colonel. And so that's a really high level, and it took me a long time to level him up. I don't remember his name, but I'm really sad that he's dead. Or was it a girl? It might have been a girl. I don't remember. But I'm really sad that they're dead. That's the attachment that you have to the members of your squads. And then I just recently got the Enemy Within expansion, and I'm replaying it through, and it's even better. It was a lot harder to start, but even better. I just love it. So much fun. Dorlishnek. Yo, Matt. Yo. I've been a long-time fan of the work you guys do at Mini Wargaming for several years, but I've just now gotten back into tabletop gaming. I've got plenty of questions to ask with the new Tyranid Codex, but I'll keep it short. What do you think about the bio-artifacts after sitting on the book for a bit? Meh. The queen hat crown thingy, Norn queen thingy, that's pretty cool. Plus 6 synapse, that's useful. A lot of the other ones, like the young girl thing, that'll be useful somewhere. I know I could make use of that. Well, yeah, whatever. There's a couple good ones. I don't actually play, but I've been reading it. It seems to me that there's quite a bit of versatility. I thought about maybe using the miasma cannon with the turbogun since she can take it. So the turbogun has a 36-inch poison 2 blast or template. Hey, I'm going to have to play around with them. I can guarantee you that you're going to see them in my battle reports because I like to give them a try. Or give the Trigon Prime Maw Claws a round in close combat, and if he gets a wound, he can give himself preferred enemy. I've only read the rules, but I think there is some synergy in the book that needs to be explored. I agree. I think the Codex actually has a lot of promise. Not because they necessarily did a great job on it, but because it's just something new. So you get to kind of explore it and find all the little combinations. Gazrat. Good day, mate. No, good day, Matt. Actually, that's Matt. I said mate because I said good day, like good day. Hope you had a great Christmas and break, etc. Thank you. I did, etc. I am sad about the new Codex and watched you and Jay go through it. Jay looked like someone died, which was sad. I asked a little while ago if you thought the Doom and Turvy would get nerfed, and they did. So hard that the Doom is no longer even an option. What do you think that you'll miss the most from the previous Codex? My set of Spores, even though they weren't necessarily like super powerful, they were fun. They were fluffy. It's like, I want to bring a list that everything just drops in the Spores. And that was kind of fun. Not everything, obviously, because you lose, but still. I asked a little while ago, a bit of a really one, if I have a blob of Gaunts in front of 3 Doc Effexes and I put a Venom Throat behind them, does that give the Effexes a 2+ cover save? 4 from the Gaunts, then Shrouded? It would be a 3+. It would be 5+ for being covered by the Gaunts. And that's only if the guy has any height whatsoever, then he won't be blocked by the Gaunts. Because they have to cover like 25% of the model, which they do if you're at ground level. It would give them a 3+ cover save, which is pretty awesome. Put them in Ruins, and they got a 2+ cover save. Gazrat, P.S. Like you, I also think there are many possibilities to be taken from the Codex and will lead a lot of variation within the list. Plunkinator, good day, Matt. Could you do a video on the history of Mini Wargaming? How you and Dave met, how the company came to be, how you got to be where you are today, how Owen, Dan, and Jay came along, etc. I actually have done that in the past. Not a specific video, but I think I've answered it a couple times in Sit and Talks. So I won't answer that right now, but maybe I will make a video. That way I can point people to the video. Miso. Rob Ford is back. I didn't know that. The Name of the Wind. Probably the best written and most literally fantasy books I've ever read. Very, very good. It's a real shame that you don't want to read the second one, though. I know it has a lot more content that you might disapprove of, but I think you have to view it as the character growing into a man and trust the author that it is there for a reason. Not everything about being grown into a man needs to be written in a book. It's fiction. It doesn't have to depict everything. Like it's okay if it doesn't. He doesn't strike me as a guy who adds stuff gratuitously just to sell more copies. No, I don't think that he necessarily did it for that reason either. But I still just, yeah. Scolari, with all the crap GW is doing right now, is there another game with the army building complexity like Warhammer Fantasy 40k? I like War Machine, but I have not found one like Warhammer that has the customization of units in the army. No, there's not really. Unless maybe Mantix games are, but I haven't actually looked at them, so I'm not sure. Most are just pre-built units and models without very many options. I agree. That's also their strength because it allows you to get things cheaper. So, but I agree, it's also a weakness. Mindfuss1, hello from Wisconsin, Matt. Not sure if you've ever been asked this, but how often do you actually play 40k without having to film a bat rep or do something for the site? Never. Or almost never. So rare. And when do you play just for fun? Have you ever played a game where something really cool happens and say to yourself, dang, wish I had filmed that? I guess the answer to my previous question kind of answers that one. I'm a fellow mid player, and like you and Jay, I was bummed, especially with the lack of sport pods. My heart breaks, excuse me, at the thought of having to run the bulk of my army across the board. All my enemies get time to shoot away my infected units before getting any use. Having said that, I just played my first game with the new Codex against Orcs, 1,000 points, purged the alien. All at the end of the game, he still had 1/4 of his army, while I had only my Tyranid Prime war boss and 2 warriors. I killed him in victory points. My greatest success came from my squad of Hive Guard. And surprisingly, my 2 squads of warriors with adrenal glands. I hope is rekindled and can't wait to experiment against other armies. I'm excited about your new Nidbat reps and look forward to seeing what strategy you develop. Thanks and good luck. Thank you. Mickey Levy, hey Matt, what do you have in your Conte Cemento collection? I've got regulars, I got a Bogmarie, I've got a Commando, I've got a Knight of Montesa, I've got a Drago, I've got a Tramadoc, a Machinist, I've got a Peacemaker, I've got a Guarda de Assalto, I've got a Naga, and a couple Paulbots, and oh, I got the one Sergeant thingy, the one that drops in. I don't remember what her name is. I remember his name is. And I think that's it. Need more. Always need more. H-Town Hammer. Matt, love what you guys do here at Mini Wargaming. It gives me something to listen to while I work, which helps more than you will ever know. My question is, you guys use a lot of terrain in your battle reports, and that is great to see, but do you think adding more line of sight blocking terrain would help the armies that don't have the firepower of Talon Eldar, but are better in assault like Orcs, Blades, or Tyranids? Keep up the good work, and hopefully business is as good as ever for you guys. I believe in using more terrain than less, so I agree with you. Or at least lots of terrain so they're always having some sort of cover save. Scott Wiz, last comment. Matt, greeting from Ohio. I have a couple questions for you. 1, I just got into 40k and I've enjoyed watching your bat reps and tutorials, which you guys do a great job at. Thank you. My question is, where do you start building an army at? I have the starter set and was lucky enough to find a ton of limited edition one at my local hobby store. Are you asking where you buy it from? Or what models you get? So where you buy it from, then your local gaming store preferably, so you can support them. If not that, then an online store that you can order by like mail order. And if not that, then Games Workshop. Because you need to support the local gaming stores because they also support the other games, usually. And 2, what age is too young to play 40k? My 10-year-old son wants to play with me. Is he too young? I actually already answered that from somebody else, so refer to that answer. Thank you everybody for your comments. I actually got through all of them. It's over an hour long. So if you want your question answered, make sure you post it in the comments below on Mini Wargaming. If you're on YouTube, click on the link below and then post a comment there. This is Matthew from Mini Wargaming. Happy Wargaming.